Hey,
Hello and welcome to Scott Schilling Speaks. I'm your host, Scott Schilling, and it's going to be another great show because we got another great guest. He has been part of Success Magazine, part of, help guiding a plethora of direct sales companies to better paths, and just an all-around good guy. Steve Jamieson, thanks for joining me here on Scott Schilling Speaks.
I'm going to try to live up to that billing, at least the good guy part.
It's the good bite. And now the CEO of Working Social. So what is Working Social?
In some ways, it's a culmination probably of the last 25 years, right, of having been in the direct selling, sales and marketing space, the technology space, because more than anything before, in the $4 billion in sales that I've seen as a chief executive officer, I've never seen more of a culmination, right, of social and e-commerce coming together at the same time. For instance, if you look at Google and Facebook and Instagram, they were always traditionally considered communication tools. And then if you looked at Shopify and Amazon, you looked at those as e-commerce tools. Now you can't tell which is which, right? That's social. So when I say working social, it really is. There is no difference. The interesting thing about Amazon and Shopify, right, is that in the old days, when you looked at the Rockefellers of the world or the Vanderbilts, it was these guys who built something that I wasn't a part of. Maybe if I was lucky enough, I would be a customer of theirs, right? But when you look at Amazon and you look at Shopify, it's the everyday person that is responsible for their success, not just as a customer, but as a business partner. No one realizes that 50% of all Amazon sales come off of mom and pops who are working with Jeff Bezos in a sense, right, to bring great products at a great price. Same thing with Shopify. 2 million people, I'm saying, are just mom and pop merchants that are paying $29 a month to get involved in that working social experience. So never before, I'm saying, when it comes to technology, when it comes to e-commerce, when it comes to the next millionaires of the world, that it affects us no longer as just customers, but we get to participate in a way that we never have before. And that's true of Uber and Airbnb and Etsy and you name it. There's no business today that the door isn't open for us to share in the economic wealth, not just the cheap prices or the convenience that those products come along. And so Working Social is really designed to leverage that, take it to another level, and help maybe somebody else become the next Jeff Bezos.
Well, I think it's fascinating because I agree with you. I shared from the stage how to utilize Amazon and eBay and folks like that, and then also had my own stores for a period of time. And that was prior to the pandemic, but the reality is there's no doubt that with the pandemic, business as we know it will never be the same. It has changed. It has gone to the internet. If you don't have a presence on the internet, what are you waiting for? My goodness, have you not realized that things are never going to be done the exact same way? I'm not trying to say all brick and mortar is going to go away, but a good chunk of it is, for goodness sakes. You know, I mean, the reality is that we can do this.
But here's what's interesting, right, is Amazon and Shopify, I keep using them as an example, not necessarily them in its totality, but they were always considered the new kids on the block and everyone making at the expense of retail. Well, the truth is Amazon and Shopify, right, are no longer the new kids on the block. There's the next wave where one day people are going to say, can you believe the way that Amazon used to do business, right? And one of those ways that I could tell you that Working Social is involved in, right, is that it used to be, and Amazon is still guilty of it, Shopify is still guilty of it, is that we find the traffic, right, where all people want to buy goods and services, and then we bring them to a website. We bring them to a destination when the traffic is on all the other destinations. The traffic is on Facebook, the traffic's on Instagram, the traffic's on TikTok, the traffic's on social media sites that we never heard of, right? And the next wave is basically every single person no longer figuring out how to build their website, but where they can place their buy button.
Yeah.
Today, that's the next future, is that everywhere you look, whether you're watching a movie, watching a TV show, whether you're on someone's blog, whether you're sending an email, there'll be a portable buy button everywhere that allows someone to get paid as if they had their own Amazon store, as if they had their own eBay store. So this idea, I'm saying, of finding traffic across the street and then bringing it into your house, as opposed to going where the people are and instantaneously at the touch of a button, allowing those products to be on their way to somebody's house to experience, that's the future. And so that evolution and that change of socialization, personalization, and e-commerce, really, as you said, that's who the hell working social is. And again, doing it in a way where there isn't a person who can't participate. So that's the exciting future, I think, of e-commerce, and the kind of things that I think your program, where people maybe walk away and go, is that true? Is that happening today? Is he talking about the future? No, he's actually talking about something that you can actually do this afternoon. That's the exciting part.
Again, I learned a long time ago, fish where the fish are. It's a whole lot easier, right? You know, it's a whole lot easier to catch fish if you actually fish where the fish are. And so again, I think that that's a great distinction that you offer there, from even another way that business is changing due to the pandemic and due to whatever. I mean, we look at Facebook with 2.8 billion. We look at LinkedIn with 753 million. We look at even Twitter with 350 million. My God, there are certainly people chumming the waters.
Yeah, and here's the other interesting change that's happened over the past 5 years that people don't realize, especially if you're in e-commerce and sales, right? There are 130 million people in this country who are involved in loyalty programs. But do you know how many loyalty programs those people are involved in? The 130 million? Almost 3 billion. 130 million people have signed into 3 billion cumulative total of loyalty programs, meaning that customers expect more than better prices, right? Yeah. Customers want to be appreciated. They want to be rewarded for making those choices. So today we live in a world where if you don't understand, your customer doesn't want a discount, right? He wants you, in a sense, to pay him for thinking about shopping on your site. What I like to say is customers want to be paid to browse, meaning put money in their account to go shopping just for looking at your site or visiting your store online or off, right? Pay them when they shop by giving them money to go shop the second time. Pay them when their friends shop. Pay them maybe if they even want to get involved with you and representing your line. That's this line crossing, right, between direct sales, e-commerce, social commerce, is we want to be involved in every step of the way. No longer are we willing just to be a customer and get a thank you, right, or get an email solicitation with a next discount coupon. No, we're going to take responsibility for your success. We want to be appreciated. We want to be rewarded. That's the different psychology. That one of the few things, like for instance, if you go to the Gap, Williams-Sonoma, Macy's, Costco, all of their marketing and advertising is no longer we're the cheapest guys in town, right? It's how much we pay you and reward you for every single time you shop. There's a psychology going on of inviting customers into this chain, into the supply chain, so to speak. That's the expectation. It's interesting to me that the third biggest shopping day of the year, I don't know if it's still true, but it used to be, right, was tax-free day. It was the lowest returns, right? Maybe you only got an 8% or 8.25%, depending on where you lived, right? I mean, yeah. Sears would give you a 10% coupon just for rolling out of bed in the morning, right? But yet, because it was a reward and not a discount, it motivated people to think they were getting something they normally wouldn't get, which is really the psychology heartbeat of customers. It goes back to American Airlines. When they introduced rewards and points, right. It changed the way people bought airline tickets, right? And so it's one of the few things in all of this retail disruption, online and offline, that has proven to actually grown and been more successful in the past 20 years versus going away. And so for anyone out there, I'm saying whether you're a personal trainer, personal motivational speaker, I'm saying whether you're a big box store, if you don't understand the psychology of the customer today and instead fall upon technology, thinking the latest app is going to do it or the best Zoom experience is going to do it, no, actually it goes back to human nature. People want to be appreciated and they feel appreciation when they get rewards, not discounts. And that's, again, another thing that Working Social is trying to lead the way through coaching and mentoring, and offering that kind of strategy to companies to say, how do I participate? How does my business show up in this new world of online and offline commerce? Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so true. And that concept of, I mean, Les Giblin had that many, many years ago of, the 3 A's, the appreciation, the approval, and the acceptance,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I mean, that is not new human psychology either.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing
No,
that it's been
yeah,
out there for many, many years and people have forgotten it?
what people, it's funny, I always shock people when I show them the companies that are so successful that they've never heard of in this area. There's a company, for instance, called Ibotta, IBOTTA. Most people, again, very rarely have they heard of it. But on their website, they show how much money they've paid back their customers in rewards for having shopped on their site. And the company's about 6 years old, and now they've crossed $1 billion
Wow.
and rewarding customers to go back. And it's always that reaction. And then I go, well, is that a one-off exception? No, let's look at Retail Me Not, BeFrugal.com, Dash. I can go on and on of where this psychology has worked over and over again. And maybe if there's one takeaway, that someone can have from this is, yes, there's technology that executes it, but you've got to have technology that executes a real fundamental strategy. That's the biggest thing to success. And the idea that we used to think we needed, right? The Jim Rohns, the Tony Robbins, sometimes the Scott Schillings, right? To motivate a sales force to go find us customers, right? The reality is the customers, right, are the ones that you can go viral with, that it can attract the great sales reps to then come in and work with that. And that's where I'm saying sales is so upside down today. And everyone is participating in it without even realizing it.
Yeah, totally agree with you. And that's the human condition, the human need, the hierarchy of needs. None of that has changed. The times have changed, but people still love to be appreciated. And wow, I look at this little tchotchke I got for doing next to nothing, right? And so your systems have that all built into them.
Yeah. And it goes back to that what's right on your shirt, right? Which is, it says, be connected, right?
Right.
And if you said to somebody, how are you connected to the people that you spend the most amount of money with, right? Or that you share their products with, right? That's what I meant. There's so many more ways for people to be connected. Right now, I'm saying, like, online, people check out with a transaction, right? And now that you can transact on Messenger, right? You get a shopping cart on Messenger, which allows that company to have a social relationship with you, as opposed to just saying thank you for your purchase, right? I mean, that's where the conversation goes way beyond the transaction in a working social future. That's the line that's being blurred and crossed, and people actually are enjoying it, right?
Yeah, for sure. The reality is, it's funny. Some of us more mature, that's code word for old. Some of us more mature salespeople remember what it was like meeting people, shaking hands, having a cup of coffee, sitting down, learning about them, their family, their needs, their wants, their desires, actually going through the process of creating a relationship with them. And I think one of the interesting things, as I train today, and I love training millennials, because they get it if you share it with them, but people haven't been sharing that relationships are still an integral part of a transaction, and trust is the integral part.
What you said. Okay. Yeah, it's funny. The interesting thing to me is, when having, been involved in network marketing and direct sales for many years, as well as sales and marketing outside the business. And it's always interesting to compare the two, right? Network marketing got a terrible perception because of the pressure, right, of trying to turn everyone into a salesman. right?
Right.
So I want to buy the product from you, but please don't ask me to sell it for you, right? And retail and affiliate marketing, so instead of asking someone to become a salesperson, they just said, we're going to pay our customers. And the customers, again, they're proud of being purchasing or being involved in a Shopify site, right? But they still dread that feeling, right? If you're in a network marketing company, that someone's going to pressure you to sell the product. So it's again, it's how you position it, right? It's how you start it. It's always tweaks, right? You don't have to totally necessarily be disruptive to get disruptive results, but you have to speak differently. You have to look at things differently. You have to understand what is it that, where's the resistance, right? And so pay me as a customer. If you start there, that's how you train and teach me to pay me one day, maybe as a salesperson, because I'm actually doing the same thing. You're just going to pay me more money.
People love to refer, things that work.
Right.
If you have a positive experience and they work well for you, it's really easy to say, hey, you know what, as my friend, I'd love for you to have the same result that I had.
Right.
And so that's an easy process, and that's also a sale. Even though it's not, you may not frame it that way in your mind, but it truly is. And gosh, the studies in the years gone, about word of mouth and how important it was. I've got to believe it's even more important today, isn't it?
The word of mouth is there's social listening tools to hear what everyone is saying 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? There's more places to say it than there ever were before, right? Word of mouth has been defined differently, right? I mean, people make one comment on Facebook, and all of a sudden somebody they haven't seen in high school in 35 years is making a comment, right?
That's
There is
a
no
true
quiet
statement.
conversations anymore, right?
Very, very true statement. I actually made a post this morning that said, once again, I'm in trouble. I broke community standards because I said happy birthday to too many friends. Would you please move your birth dates? Thank you, from Facebook. So
Right.
true.
Yeah, and the other thing is, look how COVID, right, changed a generation, where now we used to make fun of our kids for texting, thinking, because they thought that was a personal conversation. Now they make fun of us that Zoom is our personal conversation, right?
Exactly.
So if it wasn't for something like COVID, the unintended consequences, all these, what I would say, people north of 50 years old, all of a sudden had to become technology savvy to survive personally, and to survive professionally.
And at the same time, think of the magnitude of being able to go from 10 million users 1 month to 300 million 4 months later.
Right.
The
Absolutely.
scalability and everything, phenomenal if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Uh,
And became
so
more personal too, because remember, it's only recently that we have the virtual backgrounds, right?
yeah,
So when you're doing those Zooms, you get to see in somebody's kitchen table, you get to see their house, you go, oh, that's how they live. Oh my God, all those famous people, right? That they would be on a Zoom. I mean, I remember when Saturday Night Live, did a Zoom. Uh, they broadcasted their show actually doing Zoom, and you got to see where the actors lived sometimes, and they're in their own home. And it was like, oh, this is more personal than I ever expected, because I
yeah,
normally would never be invited into their home, right? I I remember Mary Kay's a client of mine, and I remember teaching people that Zoom is actually more personal, or allows you to be personal more often than sometimes driving some 2 hours to be at somebody's kitchen table, right? And that the way that I used to train them was, I said, turn off the video. Just, you're so concerned with people watching you, right? Where the real connection is them hearing you, seeing you. And so when you learn just to talk, because in the old days they would do a three-way phone call and they'd be completely comfortable. But you put a three-way phone call on a Zoom and people think, oh my God, I'm performing, right?
yeah,
So in their own minds, right, that's how they would get comfortable, when that old psychological deal, it's not all about you. Don't focus on you. Don't worry if you're having a bad hair day today, right? Just look into them. And all of a sudden it got to be a much more comfortable tool for people, right?
think, some great wisdom there. It's
Yeah.
exactly why we built the broadcast network the way we did, so that we can use video, audio, or text.
Mhm.
independently. We can use them together, or we can use them as the mode of communication that you choose to use. It's the reason I record the shows in videos, because there are video locations to place the show, and there are audio locations to place the show. So it's just phenomenal to think of what our reach is today in comparison to what it was less than 2 years ago. I mean, my goodness, the possibilities that are there. Unfortunately, I mean, I hope this not to be true, but it seems like we're going back into some of that retraction and back into some lockdowns and things like that. I really hope it's not true. I just don't know how it will not be,
Well,
so we need to do more
I
of
think
it.
if the good news is, if we do have to take a step back, I think we're all better prepared too, right?
Yeah.
This time it's not so much the unknown. We know that we're still going to have our jobs, right? We're still going to be able to go grocery shopping. So, the adjustments are going to be less this time, and the medical community is far more prepared this time as well.
I,
So,
I I think that's one of the biggest areas, Teledoc or Zoomadoc.
right.
You know, I might have to
Right.
buy that URL now that I think about it. But there's so much more ability. It wasn't a thought. And I remember somebody asking me early in the lockdowns, what do you think about it all? And I said, man, I love the extra efficiency and the extra time I get in the day. And they were saying, well, what do you mean? I said, well, instead of trying to drive to a networking meeting, to get stuck on LBJ, to show up at the meeting, not to have the person who I wanted to
Yeah.
be there anyway.
Right.
And think of
But
all
it
the
is,
efficiencies.
but it's funny because I always love to think about how is what's going on with COVID, translate into other areas in life. And as a motivational speaker and trainer yourself, right? The first issue that we always have to deal with people is what I call blame and denial, right? We always blame somebody else for the situation we're in, and we deny the situation that we're actually in. So how do you make a change when you're hanging on to blame and denial, right? And that's really the battle with COVID, right? Is we're obsessed on who to blame, right? Was it the laboratory? Is it like somehow that's going to save a life, right? And there's a time and a place, right, for blame, right? And then we deny. We just want to pretend. There's a large number of people that just don't want to make any adjustments in life and just deny that we're in the situation, and hopefully we're going to get through it. And so, again, whether you're trying to change your life or the world is trying to change the situation you're in, I go back to blame and denial are always the enemies, right? That's the breakthrough that has to happen for us to beat it, and us personally, I'm saying sometimes to change the direction that we want to go in as well.
Again, more wisdom. Look at what's popping out here. Uh, no, I mean, I agree with you. I think it's very much so. So, with the ever-changing business environment, what's next for Working Social, and what's next for the workplace itself?
I think the danger of any company is becoming an expert without an answer. And it's almost like the person who reviews movies, right? That doesn't mean that it can necessarily, write the next great one, right? Or act in the next great one. And so when it comes to business, I think it's important to be both. It's to have the great observations and the great perceptions and identify the right problems, a skill set unto itself, but then also identify the solutions. And so as Working Social, we used to develop a lot of technologies. And when I realized that in such an ever-changing world of technology, it's now identifying people that have spent a great deal of money, right? And yet not necessarily have the best use cases for that technology. And then doing a business deal where you're allowed to negotiate with those people, have access to their platform, and do what Steve Jobs always does: reinvent things. Don't
Yeah.
worry so much about inventing things, but creating better use cases, allowing someone to build on what someone else has done so well. And so what Working Social has done now, and we've done it with Zoom, we're now doing it with a large e-commerce platform right? We're making it act more efficiently, creating better experiences. It's no longer technology for cheap is the answer, which it used to be. Now it's what's the technology experience? Because you can create the most brilliant thing in the world, but if I'll say if that 50-year-old plus, doesn't know how to operate it, just the
Right.
way, people then they become useless. It's like creating the cure for illnesses, and then people can't afford to buy it. Right? It's the same thing with technology, except it's not about just price, it's about the ability, can you actually operate it? And so that's where I think we've really leaped in front of, I'm not going to be so bold to say we leaped in front of Amazon and Shopify. I think we've leaped in front of them philosophically. And I think we're leaping in front of them of making our products accessible. And even if we have 1/10 of the success that they have, somebody else will then jump on that and do better versions of what we do. But today, yes, I think we have actually achieved, I'm saying, some of those areas in a small way, and look forward to really doing that in the future. So working social isn't a title, it's not an explanation, but it's actually a solution for people. That's where we are.
Yeah, absolutely excellent. If you as a listener or a viewer want more information on what we've been talking about here, just reach out to scott@scottschilling.com. It's my name. It's not hard. I don't hide. scott@scottschilling.com. And ask any questions that you want to have, or if you want to learn more, let me know and we'll make sure that we get you the information going along. Steve, how about one last little nugget and word of wisdom as we sign off?
I would say that the biggest change that I've seen is, in the old days, we used to motivate and inspire people to change their lives. And then the challenge was helping them find a vehicle to do it in. Today, there are more vehicles than dreams. And so it's really just aligning people up with the right one. So no longer is the challenge creating a new skill set for yourself, right? It's finding your skill set and then just realizing how many places that you can apply it. And that's where technology becomes magical. I'm saying, so if we can just take advantage of who you are, you could be successful.
Yeah, so much so. We're not without people who have dreams. We're not without people who want to move the planet forward and do great things. Sometimes we're without the tools or the funding necessary to accomplish it, unfortunately. And let's try to do what we can to modify those things wherever we can. So again, for anybody who wants more information on what we've been discussing here today, just reach out, scott@scottschilling.com, and we'll get you the information. I want to thank you all for joining us here on Scott Schilling Speaks. I want to thank my guest, Steve Jamieson. Thanks for being here, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all again tomorrow, exact same time. God bless.